4 years down the road here at Atreyu running company. It's crazy to think about how time has just flown by. Every year, February 21st comes around and I get excited to make a little update. Hello again, and I know it's been a while. I took a little bit of a winter hiatus for the YouTube page, and I've been doing a lot of training. It's been tax season. I've got like work to do, and admittingly YouTube is a lot of fun for me, but sometimes I can get a little bit myopic and trying to I spend a lot of time filming and editing and everything, and so it was nice to take a break and reset, but it's good to be back, and thanks for tuning in. Sometimes I do a State of the Shunion on this day, other days I just do an update, and I think this one's going to be a fun one. Back 4 years ago, it was February 21st, 2020, and at midnight that day we took our first round of sales. It was wild. I was so green at the time. I thought that when you did a drop on a certain day, you needed to do it on that day, at midnight. And people were like, why'd you open up the site at midnight? And sizes were selling out and stuff. And I was like, I didn't know any better. And that was kind of a foreshadow of the wild ride of me not knowing exactly what I was doing for a few years, and just learning as we went. The team was growing and changing, and the business plan changed, and all kinds of things were changing, but it was just a lot of fun. But admittingly, it was kind of like a pinball machine where Atreyu is the pinball, and we get blasted into the arcade machine. It's a lot of fun, but it's like super chaotic. And that proceeded for about 3 years. And then in this past year, things kind of settled in. We kind of found our rhythm, and things became more clear. Specifically, I see myself as a student of the industry and a student of the craft of the work that I'm doing. And I feel lucky to be able to do it because it brings me a lot of joy, because I'm so grateful for the opportunity to learn on the job and have all these adjacent things that I'm learning. Like right now I'm doing 3D work in Rhino for, last design, so I can make my upper patterns better, and all kinds of different things that I'm able to learn on the job. Sewing, just working with fabrics and kind of creating my own little sample room here, what I call the dungeon, the work from home kind of ground zero for all the operations for Atreyu. And it's just been a little bit easier to understand in this past year. And the team in the past was a little larger, and now we've settled into a very small team. Currently it's me and Sean. Sean does all of the kind of fulfillment ops and the email support. He works from home and fulfills from our storage units. Maybe one day a week I'll go in and hang out and we'll fulfill together, but we keep a good cadence. We run together 3 times a week, and we talk about the business and talk about what's going on. And my wife, Lena, she does the social media correspondence and all of the special events coordination. Haven't done too many special events, in the past year. Or early 23, we did a lot. But since then we've just been kind of sticking to the fundamentals of kind of doing business on the e-com side. And it's been, like I said, just really, really rewarding this year to kind of hit our stride, so to speak. And I just wanted to say that I'm super grateful to be able to have this perspective, because before it felt like a startup, and it still feels like a startup in every aspect of it. It's scrappy. We've got a long way to go. We've got different projects to tackle. But at the same time, now it feels like it's a job that I'm grateful to have, to be able to give me a paycheck to live here in Austin. And even though we can't afford a warehouse, it gives me the ability to rent a place here in Austin and work from the house and go running on a beautiful trail every day, or the streets of Austin. And it's just my favorite place to run. I've been all over the world running, and I just love running here, and I feel grateful to do that every day. new skills, living in Austin, the people that I've gotten to meet, it's just fantastic. And the experiences are just second to none. I mean, you get to travel the world, go to expos, and go to races or visit people. It's been very humbling to be able to make it 4 years to this point. And none of that would be possible without the support of people. And it got me thinking what I wanted to talk about for this particular address. And I could go through all of the subtle updates that we're doing to the models and everything, but I just don't even think that that's necessary at this point. I thought that I'd share a thought that I've been thinking about in the past few weeks. It's been a prominent thought. A lot of it has to do with my brother, business partner, and mentor. He's from the Generation X, a cool generation. I was about 9 years after him and in age, and I always looked up to him, and he showed me bands like Violent Femmes and Bad Religion. Those were like literally the soundtracks to my youth. And he was always, whether it was a mountain bike that he bought, like an Ibis bow tie, and all these like kind of boutique brands, and they were so cool, and he always loved them, and he always tried to share that kind of enthusiasm with me, like, this is really cool. It's like a subculture cool. And what I've realized over the past year is that Atreyu has had the gift of becoming one of these really cool subculture style contributors to the culture of running as a brand. And it got me really excited. It also got me thinking about, like, well, what happened to particular subcultures and brands, and, you know, even coinciding with the buy local movement or support small business. And I started thinking about that. And as time has passed, I think that, you know, maybe it's influencer culture or social media. It's easy to, and a lot of these folks, you know, they get to do this as a professional career, and that's awesome. And this isn't like a slight on that whatsoever, but to side with big companies and big ideas with massive following and get on their social media accounts and their hero images on their website is like a really cool thing. It's momentum for that career kind of orientation. And what that does is, I think that is kind of permeated into the consumer sentiment to a certain extent, and maybe over time has challenged the notion of the smaller boutique operations. And I think about that. I think sometimes, like, there's this slogan, keep Austin weird. And I think Portland had a similar, like, keep Portland weird, a slogan like that. And it was essentially kind of a support a small business, support local business movement. And I wonder if that is still a prominent thought, or if we kind of nourish that thought in, like, the cultural zeitgeist of consumerism and things like that. So if you're following me, I'm going to relay this back to a question that somebody gave in one of the YouTube videos probably half a year ago. And it was like, what's your take on the running industry? And I could never really answer that until now. And I think the way that I want to answer that is that I see running culture and the commerce of running, the doing business part of running, is like very closely tied to each other. The synchronicity of, like, the products we buy and the brands that we, like, cloak ourselves in to toe the line of our first race or our 50th race, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like part of our identity. And I see that running culture is very synchronistic with the business of running. And that's cool. But if you put all those things together, again, I think it challenges the notion of boutique, small teams, small operation businesses. And that makes me optimistic. It's a huge challenge to kind of keep our contribution sound in the culture of running. And as our product portfolio has come to fruition, we've kind of created the base model, and then we created carbon-plated racing shoes, and then we created a trail shoe, and then pretty ass backwards, we did a training shoe called the Daily Trainer to kind of complete our lineup. Like, that mission is pretty much complete at this point. And the way I've always envisioned it was like now doing software upgrades, software style upgrades to each of the models. So the new daily trainer will be the 1.2. And that's kind of a nod to subtle upgrades and kind of getting away from drop culture and hype culture and things like that. Something I've always wanted to try and achieve. And if brands in the commerce of running is tied to running culture, then I thought, how cool would it be to really start to double down if that's our contribution, like a steady foundation in the practice of running and all of those kind of esoteric ideas that have been traditionally hard to articulate, but I guess it's worth the attempt in doing so. And that's what I've been able to see clearly. So what we've done this year is we've cut a lot of our expenses and leaned out. We stopped trying to think about grow and new products and new products and new products. We really just try and hone in on a healthy business model to keep us around and gunning for that next order. Because if we make that, I always had in the back of my head, if we make it to 5 years, man, like we could be around for a while. And I love that thought, and I'm still shooting towards that thought. I don't know what's at 5 years. I really don't. That was just a goal, and I think our goals can become materialized. And I've always said that I hope Atreyu is kind of a beacon where people can look at it as a reflection of their own goals, and like a guy in a small team in a boutique operation that can inspire people to go out and achieve their own goals, whether it be a shoe company or a marathon PR or a restaurant or a coffee shop or whatever it is. I hope that we put that vibe out there to where people can kind of feel inspired in that regard. And I think that's a running culture, because running is a solo journey, but it's also a group activity. You can get a lot from exploring inward on a solo run, or you can get a lot from running with a group. There's just so much there. And now that the dust is settled, I've just realized that we're a small boutique operation, and I couldn't be more proud of that. And like I said, I believe it matters, because when the notion of the underdog and the small companies and the subcultures become challenged in a world that of grandiose kind of displays of success everywhere, are pretty much ubiquitous, in terms of opening up our phone and seeing success stories everywhere. It's not that I wanted to make the company the hero in our own journey, and that's not the point. In fact, Donald Miller, who wrote the book, I think it's called How to Build a Story Brand, he's like, don't ever make your own company like the hero of its own journey. But I don't really see it that way. I see this as a group effort and a mere reflection of things that I've wanted to do that I hope inspire people to do their own thing. And I think we create great products. And I think that message is one that's worth leaning to as a subculture. And I hope that we can continue to kind of refine that over time. And it gets me to kind of the last thing I'll talk about, which is like, what's next for Atreyu? Like what's in store for going into the 5th year of business. And I don't want to say I'm not trying to build anything specifically, but I do want to keep an open mind about the possibilities of what that is. A few months back, like Jeremy Allen White, who is a character in one of the actors in The Bear, and he was in a paparazzi picture, like wearing a daily trainer. It was so cool. And I was like, there are so many aspects that are in the future that I don't know. And what I'm excited about at this point, now that we've kind of honed in on the craft of like what we do, which is designing shoes, refining shoes, ordering the shoes, getting them in, talking about running culture, shipping the shoes, talking about running culture, and kind of making sure that, like, being very conscious of our lane. Now I think that there's some ambience of mystery that's surrounded, like, well, what happens next? I'm not particularly a growth CEO. I'm more of a creative, kind of emotionally driven guy. And I think that there's a lot of analytical thinking that I have to do on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, where my natural instincts usually feel most at home is in the creative act of seeing what's next, just like creating this brand that kind of puts out these types of messages and just see where it goes. And I don't think that art should be defined totally. And I see that my style is more of an exploratory, an expeditionary style excavation in the future. And I'm excited about that, you know. I don't know what's in store for this year. I do know that I could talk about products all day long, but I think it's our duty to make subtle and beautiful upgrades when we can, when they're within reason. Products are going to be great. I think the race model is the most underrated shoe right now in the industry. I just do. I think the Base Trail is also one of the most underrated utility all-terrain shoes. It's a beautiful situation. Daily Trainer's got a lot of love, and the base model, I mean, there's simply no product on the market that fits and feels and gives you the same feeling that you get in the base model. I've yet to find it. And I'm proud of that. And so, like, what do you do? Like, when I'm so satisfied with what we've created that that at this point it's kind of like you take the hands off the wheel a little bit and just say, like, bring it on, like bring on opportunity in the future. That's pretty artistic to me, and I hope that I keep that spirit alive. So that's my check-in for this year. Thank you so much for all of those people that have supported us. We could not do this without the support. Again, I'm not trying to be the hero in our own journey, but it's not all pie in the sky for Atreyu, and I've worn all of the ups and downs on my sleeve throughout the years, and I don't really plan on stopping that because there's too much grandiose, you know, pie in the sky stuff out there. And I think that I've always wanted to know what's behind the scenes, and it's not always, you know, it's not always easy, but it's almost always rewarding to do the work and to get through the other side of the door. And now at this point, like, we have people from the first email signups that are still with us today. And for that, for having my job and doing what I do and being able to learn and meet people and have these experiences, thank you so much again for another beautiful year. That's my check-in. Hope y'all have a great day. Signing off from here in the dungeon. Another great night. I'm gonna call my grandpa and give him an update about the business. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.